It is Monday, November 11th, 2024. This is yet another edition of Football Today, presented to you by Captain Morgan, the official spiced rum of the NFL. Bobby Skinner, Justin Penik. I am Chris Rose. Producer Jeff is here as well. And what a fun week 10 we had. The early games were incredible. The Sunday night game was one of a kind. The afternoon games, whatever. We'll see if we even mention them. But I want to mention this. It's time for our La Vida Más Fina Game of the Week. It is brought to you by Corona, and there were a couple of them that were so good we couldn't pick just one. So our two games of the week, Chiefs 16, Broncos 14, last-second field goal block, and the Chiefs remain football's lone unbeaten. Then Sunday night, Jared Goff picked off not one, not two, not three, four, but five times. The Lions were down 16 points, and they came back on a last-second field goal to top the Texans. 26-23 was the final. So, Bobby Skinner, were you more amazed that the Lions came back and won thanks to a foot, or were you more amazed that the Chiefs were able to remain unbeaten thanks to blocking a foot?
The Lions. We're double fisting game of the week with our Coronas this week. The Lions. And well, you know what's crazy? And maybe this is just because I picked them and I have too much confidence in myself. Even when they were down, I was like, I feel like the Lions are going to at least come back and make this close. And that's what they did. And even after that, they have another interception. They get another interception, yet they still make those plays. I know we want to do a little bit of like Chiefs versus Lions as best, who's the best team in the NFL. I truly think they are the two best. But this Lions team to me is just like, it's so good. And you don't have to just, go talk about their past playoff performance like you do with the Chiefs a bit. The number 2 scoring offense, number 8 scoring defense. They get the second most interceptions in the NFL. Like, they just play winning football. And even when it's not pretty, they grit it out. Like the Texans and Rams games, they gritted both those games out. Like, they're a team that I just think it's how do you stop them for 4 quarters? It's very tough.
I feel like the Lions needed that game because it was a little too much kind of kicking ass, where it's like, hey, the Chiefs are in the nitty gritty of it every week, where their margin of victory is kind of startling if you look at it, and their point differential. I don't even know their point differential. That's something that we can look up really quick. But the Lions were kicking a little too much ass. Where even if they were to lose this game, it's like I have a feeling, Dan Campbell's going to turn in the locker room, even if they lost that game, be like, fellas, this humbled us a little bit, but we're going to move on. We got punched in the mouth, but we're going to punch back. It's like, yeah, hell yeah. And the point differential I'm talking about the Chiefs, Jeff. Oh, thank you to producer Jeff trying to pull stuff up on the spot. But I think the Lions needed a game like that to kind of get humbled a little bit. But the fact that they pulled it out is awesome. And their point differential is 58, which is more than I thought.
They have the best the Lions have the best point differential by 16 points, and then the Chiefs are a little lower than that. Yeah, so I mean, the line, like, it's just now here's where you beat the Lions is their secondary, despite the fact that they get interceptions, is susceptible. But now, like, they didn't have Zadarius Smith for this game, right? So the pass rush is going to get better. Again, like, Chiefs Lions, and I am not one of these people who disrespects what the Chiefs are this year, which we'll talk about. To me, like, Lions are my number 1 team in the NFL. And I won't say it's not close, but like, I'm not having any internal debate on who the best team in the NFL is. To me, it's the Lions.
Yeah, I don't have a problem saying that at all. I thought Collinsworth made a great point. Even if the Lions weren't going to come back and win last night, the fact that they could show that they could get back into a game was critical, because not everything always comes together perfectly in January playoff games. Go ask the San Francisco 49ers about that. In consecutive games, they were down at home, double digits, Packers, Lions. They thought they were out of it, and they weren't. And so now the Lions have that experience as a group of being down 16 points on the road against the division leader. Yeah, the Texans aren't what they were at the beginning of the year, and certainly even at the end of last year, but they're still a very, very good team. And everything was going wrong. So the fact that the Lions now know how the end of that story can be written, they've got that, chalk that one up to experience. For me, I think the most interesting topic is, I think people start looking at the Chiefs and they're like, yeah, they're good. Yeah, they're going to be the number 1 team in the AFC when we get to January. But how good can they be? Like, the offense seemingly scares nobody at this point. And if their defense has a little bit of an issue or has to defend against short fields, can't Kansas City be easily beaten?
On the train ride in this morning, I thought of a nasty, nasty comparison. And this is wrong. It's wrong to compare them. But the same talking points that I feel like people are saying about the Kansas City Chiefs this year, about, or not even talking points, but just like stats about, they're winning these close games. Their offense is a little bit flawed. Is that not what we were saying about the Philadelphia Eagles last year? Now, the Eagles had issues, and the Chiefs are much better coached. You obviously take Andy Reid, 7 days a week and twice on Sunday over Sirianni.
The Chiefs' defense is good. The Eagles' defense was an issue.
Eagles' defense was an issue last year, but I just think some of the talking points is similar. Right.
But here's the thing. Like the Chiefs, you want to compare it to something, compare it to the Chiefs last year, where their defense was great. Their offense was worse last year. Like, let me just describe this team without watching them. The number 11 scoring offense, the number 4 scoring defense. Number 10 in yards per game on offense, number 5 in yards per game on defense. A team that's beaten the Ravens. They beat the 2 top 5 defenses in their own division, beat the NFC champs, and put 30 on top of the Bucs offense to win that game. Like if we didn't have them at the Chiefs standard of greatness, which they have, we'd be all in. Like, oh, and guess what? Their aging tight end, who's starting to play himself into shape a little more, has 250 yards over the last 3 games. DeAndre Hopkins is their new wide receiver 1. So now I do think the Lions are better than them. But if we describe the Chiefs team if we just did a blind survey on who they are, and without even looking at their record, like, oh, that's clearly at least a top 5 team at worst in the NFL.
That's a great exercise, and it makes perfect sense. But I used to cover golf during the apex of the Tiger Woods era. I was there when he had the Tiger Slam. And I remember Hall of Fame golfer Tom Watson walking off. He was still playing in his early 60s at the time. And a bunch of us media are around him talking to him about the greatness of Tiger. And he goes, I want you to remember this moment because Tiger Woods is setting the bar so high, not even he will be able to jump over it one day. So it is impossible for us to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs without comparing them to themselves. So they have had to come back in 8 of their 9 games this year. 7 of their 9 wins have come by 1 possession. Some people would say that's a weakness. Don't you guys think that that's a strength? Is their ability to come back and win tight games as well?
Oh, absolutely.
There's a chance
this team could be 5-4, and we're saying, yeah, but don't press the panic button because of all these other things that we mentioned. Like, and we've seen them do it before. Like last year was the ultimate, never press the panic button on the Chiefs because last year the AFC was stronger. It was flat out stronger. I know the Ravens are looking really damn good last year. Last year they were a better team than what they are this year. Now maybe that run game makes a difference when it comes to the playoffs now that they have Derrick Henry. The Bills lost a lot of talent. Bills are still a threat. I think they can beat anybody in the playoffs in the AFC, but I don't know if they're stronger than what they were last year. So like the AFC to me is weaker, and they are better than what they are last year.
Yeah, I feel like it's the analytics
and they've done
nerds,
it before.
Like the Warren Sharps of the world, which I like Warren Sharp, but like the analytics nerds that they like to say, oh, it's the record in one possession games. It's something that's fluky, but I would say it's their postseason experience. Forget the records and close games this year. It's the track record of coaching. It's the track record of Steve Spagnuolo that you're facing these top-fledged offenses. You're playing these top offensive minds in football, and Steve Spagnuolo has the checkmates and the counters to their counters, and he knows how teams want to play him. He has counters to how teams want to play him. I think that's the type of stuff that's even more important than your record in one possession games when it comes down to it.
Yeah, if you're looking at the Atlanta Falcons and you're talking about their record in one or whatever team, but for the Chiefs, what's not fluky? Their consistent success. I agree with looking at the one, you look at the Minnesota Vikings in 2022, the perfect example, where it's like they have a really good record, but that defense stinks. That defense flat out stinks, but they've won every 1-score game this year. And that's not a team. And they lost in the first round to the Giants that year. And the Giants were another team that had all that success on 1-possession games. The next year it falls out underneath them. But for the Chiefs, I don't look at that at all. If anything, it's just like I think they'll probably get better where they're not one possession games as the year goes on.
I want to finish up the discussion with these two teams with this about the Chiefs, since they are the only unbeaten. I'm going to say the rest of their schedule. You guys say stop when you think that they're going to lose a regular season game.
This is going to be quick.
Okay. Next week, they're at Buffalo.
Stop. The Bills own them in the regular season. They own the Bills in the postseason.
That's true. Penik, you want me to keep going?
Yeah, keep going for the sake of the exercise.
At Carolina. Home against the Raiders. Home against the Chargers.
Maybe.
Stop.
Yeah, that's a Sunday nighter, I believe.
Chargers are playing some good ball, man.
Number one defense in the NFL. They're starting to put it in Justin Herbert's hands a little more.
Yeah. I'll stop the exercise there because the next week they're at Cleveland, and I can't do that to myself.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right. Well, that's going to be fun. It's been really interesting how the top two teams in the NFL have gotten to where they are. So that was our games. I'm going to put a little plural in there of the week, brought to you by Corona. You know what we always try and be around here? That is a fan that never loses. And here's what we mean. You know, I'm a Browns fan. You know, those two dudes are Giants fans. So they were up early sipping on those Coronas. Because
we saw you disrespecting our Giants on the pregame show.
I'll get to that momentarily because I want to talk
the Panthers.
About that. We are still loving the game. We still have passion. We still love football because whether it's a deep ball or whether it's converting a third or fourth and short or having a great time at a tailgate outside, there's always something to cheer for. And the best beer to pair with these awesome moments, it's one and only Corona. Corona is all about finding the maximum amount of joy within every moment of the game. So win or lose, home or the road, it doesn't matter. It's the perfect beer to go along with just watching football and all the moments that come along with it. So cheers to everybody who loves the game beyond the scoreboard. Corona for the fans who never lose. Get yours at ordercorona.com. It's for 21 and over. Relax responsibly. Corona Extra Beer imported by Crown Imports, Chicago, Illinois. By the way, I knew I was going to piss you guys off when I did that. I didn't do it because of that. But I really thought Carolina was going to win the game, guys. Sorry.
Well, it's just disrespectful. Right. Even though the Panthers won, that's disrespectful. That was the only game I had confidence in before the season. Like, that's the one game we'll win. And they lost it. Going into I'm actually glad they lost it, though, not even just because of the tank. Because I don't want to go into the bye week with them having some fake upbeat, GM midseason press conference. I want it all. I want darts being thrown and not we're turning the page.
Hold on. What about Captain Positivity, your partner in crime over there, who I think tweeted last week, hey, we win this one.
Oh, out of all the tweets you'd see.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden we're 3-7 heading into the bye. Our upcoming schedule not that tough. We could be 6-7, and all of a sudden in the last month of the year we're sitting there with something to play for.
And I was trolling.
I was on my way to a Rodizio dinner, and I was feeling good on a Saturday night. Okay, and I was like, looking at that Giants schedule. Now let's move on to another disastrous team, maybe, shall we?
No, before we do that, you want the best competition that's around? It's not football. Right. It's blitzball.
Well, who's playing? It might be a disastrous team.
Well, hold on. Here's a little preview for what's coming your way on Tuesday night. Blitzball Battle 5. We got the defending champion McFlurry Power taking on hook, line, sinkers. And I think the biggest question is, can anybody score off of Colin Stone?
That's the biggest question. Colin Stone won everything last tournament. He's got every pitch you can draw up. He can move it all over the place. Or will you rely on having to get the praying mantis to give up some runs?
The last guy that he gave up runs to is actually somebody he'll be facing, Dan Canobio.
Wow.
When you haven't participated in the warehouse,
she gets a little shady.
Prediction time.
I don't want to scare you here as I pick McFlurry Power, but Colin has just gotten better because since BB4, he's been playing in that professional blitzball league with the Team Como guys. Hard to pick against the defending champs.
I'm also going to pick McFlurry Power.
But I think that old man Dan is going to surprise us. K-Mac admitted to us, I don't like facing Dan Canobio. We will see you later today for Game 4 of Blitzball Battle 5. So there you go. We finally get to see the reigning champs, McFlurry Power, and old man Dan in his return to the warehouse. Hook, line, sinkers. I'll see you in the chat, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Season 5 has been a blast so far, so make sure you join us for the ride. All right, Penik, you wanted to get to this team. The Chicago Bears, they fall at home to the New England Patriots. 19-3 is the final. Penik, should Matt Eberflus put a for sale sign in his front yard? Because there's no way they could stick with this coaching staff if they want Caleb Williams to be anything close to what they imagined when they took him number 1 overall.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. Maybe Poles has the mindset of we're just going to let him roll out the season. I do think they should make a kind of maybe even a Band-Aid adjustment of taking play calling away from Shane Waldron right now. That's how bad it is. Like, Chicago fans are down bad, and I legit do feel bad for him. But it's not just Waldron, and it's not just the coaching. But I think keeping Eberflus around this year, when I think a lot of people viewed that as that's probably something that maybe they shouldn't do with drafting Caleb Williams number 1 overall, kind of giving him a new coaching staff and giving him a new regime is something that they should have done. But it's not just the coaching here. It's not just Waldron. I know a lot of people are giving Waldron the heat, but Caleb Williams has now thrown more than 23% of his passes off target, according to Bill Barnwell, and he's throwing a league worse 19.1% of his passes off target without pressure. So I certainly, Waldron has been uninspiring this year. The fact that DJ Moore has gone from one of the league's best receivers under Justin Fields, by the way. And now
other
he's
bums in Carolina as well.
Yeah, and it's very, very frustrating. Coaching is frustrating with Chicago, but I mean, Caleb has not been just wide open misses that you've seen, and you even see it against the Patriots.
No, he's been flat out inaccurate this year. You don't even need those numbers to see it. When you watch him, and then mentioned like a deep explosive plays can make up for that, but he's the worst in the NFL for a consistent starter. Aiden O'Connell and Tyler Huntley are the only guys worse than him. Now again, I agree. Shane Waldron, they're every third down guys are just blanketed. The run game is a negative to them. They can't protect even when they keep in 8. He was sacked in like a second and a half on an 8-man protection. Like that, you can't have that shit. They have bad play calls that put them behind. But he's just been inaccurate, and that's the thing you can control, getting the ball on target. And so he needs to improve his accuracy, which again, we've seen him be accurate at fucking USC. You don't throw 45 touchdowns and 3 interceptions by being inaccurate. And here's the thing, outside of just making the passes, that I think would help him: just trust DJ Moore in man coverage. We talk about Geno Smith and who played well under Shane Waldron, and the Geno Smith cheat button over the last 3 years has been this: when he gets man coverage, he throws the ball to DK Metcalf. He trusts DK Metcalf even when it's not a clear-cut open route. He trusts him, he anticipates, and he gets him the ball. Throw the ball in man coverage to DJ Moore. He is your best player on that offense. Take advantage of him. But the Bears are a mess because they make the same mistakes as they always do, which is why did you keep this coaching staff around for this this new era, essentially? Because he coached a good defense, and now you have issues because the defense is frustrated. You've lost players in the locker room, and then the offense is just not performing at all.
This has been miserable. They have gone 23 straight offensive possessions without a touchdown. 23. And then on Sunday, he gets sacked 9 times by the New England Patriots. I know that right now it's a patchwork offensive line at best, but you know what? Cry me a river. There's a bunch of teams that are dealing with that, including the team that just whooped their ass, the New England Patriots, who seemingly start a different offensive line combination every week. You know what's helped make that offensive line a little bit better in recent times? The play of Drake May. So over the last few games, Chicago has watched the number 3 overall pick outplay Caleb Williams, and they saw the number 2 overall pick outplay Caleb Williams. That's got to be a little bit concerning here. The number of sacks that he's taking is alarming, because how many times do you see a play unravel? He just starts running around in this little circle, and he gets dropped. Weeks 1 through 10, since 1970, rookie quarterbacks, he has now been sacked 38 times. There's only one guy who was sacked more.
Derek Carr or David Carr.
David Carr. The guy who was third was Tim Couch. So he was sandwiched around 2 guys who were taken number 1 overall by expansion teams. Now you're talking about one of the classic franchises of the NFL where their quarterback can't get out of his own way. They are going to need to scrap this coaching system, Figure out what works because this ain't it. And I'm more worried that Caleb Williams turns out to be Trevor Lawrence 4 years from now than he ends up being Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
That's where I am.
I think it just goes to show keeping Eberflus to begin with. Like I actually thought that hiring Shane Waldron was a good thing. And the Bears offense at times has done some good things this year, but I think the fact that it's gone this poorly just goes to show just the symptom of keeping Eberflus was just, you can't do that. They should not have done that. They should have wiped everything clean. Caleb Williams is a sign of wiping things clean. You're getting this 11 personnel of 3 receivers and even adding Kmet into the mix of, oh my God, this is going to be awesome. Like we were sitting here, and if you were to make a top 5 list of wide receiver trios in the NFL, the Bears are top 5, top 3. And it's just gone so wrong, so poorly. And even Shane Waldron, the 11 personnel last year, what they had with Lockett, Metcalf, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, that did not go over well last year. So to see it be this bad, though, is alarming.
Now, Eberflus has done a good job with the defense. That has been, and I understand that's why they kept him. He's a defensive coach, and they have a good defense this year. They're 7th in the NFL. But you can't let him fire a second offensive coordinator because no one's going to want to join him. So this is all heading towards the end, especially when you have like the Tyreek Stevenson shit and that leaked out, and you have Jaquan Brisker saying things like, it just seems like a mess. And again, it's not because if this was Eberflus's year 1, like you could maybe swallow it a little bit. But when it's year 3, it's just there's no really fixing this, and that's why them retaining him didn't make sense. It's again the give the guy who hasn't really done much an extra year argument just almost seems to fail, like exclusively fail. Like what are the examples of like the hey, this hasn't went well, let's just give a third year and hope it goes well, that have went well, or give the extra year. Like they did the same thing with Nagy and the Bears, kind of living off of that first playoff year.
All right, let's move on. Last topic. This one's going to be a quick one. Maybe most enjoyable game of the day happened in our nation's capital. Steelers come back and beat the Commanders 28-27. Under 3 minutes to go, Russell Wilson to Mike Williams ended up making that one big catch per game, and there it was. It was the game winner. Out west, the Cardinals shellac the lifeless New York Jets, who might be the first team to ever fire an interim coach during the season. 31-6 is the final. So which of those two teams, the Steelers or the Cardinals, are you kind of more impressed with at this point that could actually do some damage in the playoffs? Bobby?
DraftKings.
That is totally correct, Bobby Skinner. I'm so glad that you brought that up because there is a chill in the air. There's leaves falling to the ground, and there's football on every single weekend, and that's what fall is all about. I'm actually really excited to answer Chris Rose's question because I'm more impressed with one team, but I have way more things to say about the other team. You can make each weekend even more exciting by getting into the action with our partners over at DraftKings, the number one place to bet on touchdowns. Right now, all new customers bet just $5 instantly. They're going to get $200 in bonus bets when you use our code FOOTBALL today. That's $200 in bonus bets instantly. Stay in on the action. Use your $200 of bonus bets to bet anytime touchdowns or even make some parlays too. You want to know what I call my parlays? Octopussies, because I only go with 8 legs. Hello. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. New customers who use promo code football today. Bet just $5 on any wager. Get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code football today. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Bobby Skinner, you will be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did. It's the Steelers. The Steelers. I'm trying to not drink the Steelers Kool-Aid, but I mean, they have a legit defense, number 2 in the NFL. Russell Wilson has led them to 3 of their best 4 scoring games. And by the way, all of their last 4 games have been those best ones. They've averaged 30 points per game with Russ at QB. The run game is becoming way more efficient under Arthur Smith. There's a lot of positives with the Steelers team, and not like tell me, since Russell Wilson has been the quarterback, what the big flaw in the Steelers team is.
There isn't any.
No, there hasn't been a flaw there, but I want to put an asterisk by it. But go ahead, finish your point.
That is my what's the asterisk?
The asterisk is that their back half of the schedule, they will earn it if they end up hanging on here in the North and they end up being able to do damage. Because I think they could end up in exactly the spot they were in last year, which is the 7th seed in the AFC. It starts this week, home against the Ravens. Now, they've got 2 against the Browns. One of those could get dicey. You just never know in that series, and they are way better than the Browns, but you just never know. They got 2 with the Bengals, who
all these divisional games.
We still think those are all winnable games, sure, but they're also, many of them are losable. I mean, would you be shocked if Joe Burrow beat the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because I wouldn't.
No.
If they beat them twice,
be.
I would be. I don't think the Bengals are good.
Well, I think they're good enough. They also have games with the Eagles and Chiefs. Do those sound easy? No. I mean, like, the Steelers have played very, very well, and their defense is Super Bowl caliber. But I also could see them losing 4 games down the stretch, having 6 losses, going 11-6, and being the 6 or 7 seed in the AFC, which is right where they were a year ago.
I mean, I think they get through this at 4-4. I think they beat the Browns both times, and if they don't, they'll win an upset one, and that puts them at 11-6. You said,
yeah. They were 10-7 last year.
Sure, but they were a 10-7 team. That is like, how the hell are they 10-7? If they were 10-7 and 11-6 this year, it feels way more earned than what it was last year.
Hold on one sec, Bobby. I agree with you 1,000%. But if they don't win that division, they end up as the 6 and 7 seed. Do you have confidence in them being able to win consecutive games at Baltimore, Buffalo, and Kansas City, something like that?
Oh, no. But I don't have them. I have way less faith in the Cardinals to do that. On their side of the NFL.
Okay, Penik, you wanted to make a point.
Yeah,
the Steelers' defense. I don't think they will, but this defense, and with Russ at QB, they are a team that you're like, oh my God, they're in that fucking AFC Championship game. Where I just don't see that path for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, the Steelers they are a team with their defense, and if they could play efficient enough offense, especially if they don't turn over the ball, they play smart football. Their special teams continues to step up and make plays. The Steelers are a team that could be built for the postseason, but I think the AFC is a lot tougher in terms of the quality of teams that you can play on a round in, round out basis, where the NFC maybe not so much. Like, if the Cardinals run into a game, they're not going to run. If the Cardinals do not win the West and they run into the Eagles as their first game, you don't think the Cardinals could beat the Eagles and somehow wind up in the divisional round? They very much could, and we have to be quick with this. I want to talk about this with the Cardinals because there are some Cardinals numbers that are very, very impressive. Despite playing 10 games, the Cardinals have run the 3rd least amount of plays on 3rd down this year. Sign of healthy offense, if you don't run a lot of 3rd down plays. They also have the lowest average to go distance on 3rd down in the NFL as well. Kyler has a career low pressure rate, a sack rate of 5%, his career low interception rate, highest yards per scramble in his career. Him and James Conner are such big threats inside the red zone. They're doing a great job on early downs. They're avoiding 3rd down. So I think the Cardinals, the way that they're operating on offense right now defense is a different story, but the way that they're operating on offense right now, I think can challenge a lot of teams. McBride is jumping over guys every single week, and he looks fun and exciting. And we know that Marvin Harrison Jr. can be a better player than what he's shown, at least over the last couple weeks. I think he's a threat and a danger to break out in any week.
I just want to applaud the Cardinals. I don't care where they finish. I thought they were going to be a bottom 5 team in the NFL. They're actually very watchable. They're fun. Jonathan Gannon's done a remarkable job.
Yeah, and the Cardinals' offense is fun, like we talked about this year, and they're doing better than all of what we thought. Here's the issue: I still don't have faith in their defense, even though they just held the Jets and Bears to single-digit points. I mean, if being the Jets and Bears makes you a good team, then the Patriots are good too. My thing with the team, when they've had 5 games where they played top 16 scoring offenses. They've given up 30 points per game, in those 5 games. So I don't trust that defense. I don't think it's talented enough to really get through it, and I don't think the offense is like amazing, great to overcome that defense. It's a good offense, not a great offense.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's all good big picture stuff. All right, boys, we are back at it again at the end of the week as we get you all set for Week 11 and get into the back 9 of the season. It is certainly a blast. For Bobby Skinner, for Justin Penik, for producer Jeff as well, I am Chris Rose. We will see you Friday here on Football Today, presented to you by Captain Morgan, the official spiced rum of the NFL.